Some of you EV nuts think I'm being most unfair to poor old EVs when I say they're economically irrational. In other words, my claim is they might make the air in our cities cleaner, that's nice, they might suit you, they might make you feel good, whatever, but they will not save you money. Let's have an open and honest discussion about that. I'm John Cadogan from AutoExpert.com.au and I get new cars cheap for buyers here in Australia. Website for that, obviously. Or you can just click the card that's, up there now, dude. In my recent EV Q&A report, which I will put a link to up there whenever the system lets me stick it in, so to speak. In that report, I laid out the case that in practice, you will never pay back the additional upfront purchase price of an EV in Australia by, quote unquote, saving money by buying electrons to power it up instead of petrol. I use 26 cents per kilowatt hour for electricity, Australia, and $1.26 for petrol. This translates to 3.6 seconds per kilometre for the EV and 11.3 for the petrol. And I'm using the Kona Electric here for reference versus the 1.6 turbo petrol version of the same car. And I'm presenting you with these numbers so that you can double check my arithmetic if you choose to do so. The payback period that I calculated is 325,000 kilometres based on these numbers, or a bit over 21 years of normal driving, which is about 15,000 kilometres per year, Australia. So, essentially, you will never pay it back. Conclusion, you cannot buy an EV to save money, at least not rationally. This did not suit the EV nuts, of course, when I said that. Nuts like charge hanger wall box. 300,000 kilometres to amortise the EV is wrong because it considers only fuel and purchase price. Maintenance is also going down 2/3, and in most countries government incentives help a lot, so that all probably makes the break even at more like 60,000 kilometres. It might amaze you, Mr. Wallbox, to learn that I am a proud Shitsvillian son of a convict who lives in a land of busted-ass pyromaniacal scrub stacked with deeply venomous vermin which love the sweet, sweet taste of human flesh. I therefore produce these packages for other sons of convicts living in the land of pyromania and venomous flesh eaters. And dude, if you're not from around here, you are of course free to watch, and of course this is roughly as woke and inclusive as I ever get. We'll get to maintenance and break-even points in just a minute. Government incentives now, however, because don't hold your breath for that here in Shitsville. In fact, the brain-dead state governments are preparing a tax for EVs right now because they allege, I'm paraphrasing, bastard EV owners are avoiding fuel tax by buying EVs. I'm not kidding. That's how fucked up it is here in Australia. I'm not suggesting we need government incentives to drag down the high price of EVs, like let's let the free market sort it out, but we need to have a rational debate about that in any case, and as the current state of Canberra politics demonstrates, I think pretty clearly, those self-entitled former private schoolboys in cabinet are flat out incapable of that. Ethics and rationality seems kind of beyond them. I'm not entirely convinced EV tax breaks are a truly beneficial use of consolidated revenue. I'd love to know what Michael West thinks about that. He is one of the most switched-on independent financial journalists in the nation, and you should check out his channel to find out what's really going on around here. What I'm saying is, to disincentivise the purchase of EVs, which is what the fucked up state governments of Shitsville are planning, is absurd. So the price premium for EVs is certain to stick around in Australia for the near to foreseeable future.
John, I respectfully disagree. I think you need to add the maintenance cost on top of fuel-saving cost. EVs virtually don't have any service in comparison to ICE, and considering on average for 15,000 kilometres per year, drive saving would be much higher, and I think it would end up even at 10 years mark. But I agree that the price is still an entry barrier.
EVs, quote, virtually don't have any service. I'm calling bullshit on that, and we will address that in just a sec. EVs have a big, fat liquid cooling system, that's going to need servicing. Cabin filters. There's an hydraulic braking system, and while the pads last longer thanks to regenerative braking, the fluid inside the system which makes it work is still kind of hygroscopic, and that's going to need to be bled every couple of years. EVs have the same basic light globes and LEDs and electrical system and computer-based CAN bus architecture, so all of the same auto-electrical problems that pertain with ICE are going to carry over to EVs, plus a big fat electrical inverter and EV-specific control systems and modules. So there's that. And all that annoying safety assistance crap that sometimes manages to work. There are gears in the EV transmission too. There is also a differential, and both of these things need lubrication, and of course that oil is going to need changing periodically. Plus, the suspension goes over bumps, and the bushes are going to need replacement, as will the dampers. And let's not forget, EVs are heavier than their petrol counterparts, so this replacement of suspension bits and pieces will be more frequent. These are called facts. You EV nutcases don't have to like them. This whole supposition that EVs are maintenance-free is frankly absurd to me. They don't need engine oil and filter changes, obviously, and they don't have multi-ratio transmissions. Maintenance in relation to that is not needed in an EV, and you will save on that, there's absolutely no doubt. Plus, there's no exhaust system, no catalytic converter, no EGR, no DPF. But these components, EGR, DPF, exhaust, things of this nature, these should last for many, many years in any case, unless they're really badly designed and implemented up front. There are, in fact, emerging maintenance costs specific to EVs, and we're going to get to that. But I'm going to be entirely generous here and do a completely new assessment and give the most generous assessment of this break-even thing as possible without becoming a functionally insane EV zealot, okay? That seems reasonable, benefit of the doubt, steel manning the argument kind of thing. Let's say you never pay for a single recharge of your EV because you've installed rooftop solar. Let's call that a $6,000 investment, plus the price premium for the Kona Electric versus the Petrol of $25,000. That's $31,000 up front that you need to recoup to save money with your EV. Petrol in brain-dead Sydney is $1.43 per litre today, but let's make that $1.50. Hey, be generous. That's 13.5 cents per kilometre for the petrol based on Kona 1.6 turbo real-world kind of ballpark fuel consumption, but fuck it, dude. Let's make it 15 cents per kilometre and live life on the edge of generosity versus zero in your frigging planet saver. Is that generous enough? I think it probably is. And in the spirit of ongoing magnanimity, let's say it costs you like $500 a year more to service that dirty petrol vehicle, and hell, I'll even throw in another $500 a year to replace things that are non-service, or at least not standard service items, things that wear out, like brake pads, because they're going to wear out quicker in the petrol car, and that's a certainty. So $1,000 more per year for the petrol on top of the price of the fuel. This is as generous as I can be without going to friggin' La La Land. So I'd think you'd agree that this is spectacularly generous to the EV to the point of incipient nuttiness. And I don't want to step over that particular line, frankly. When you number these lands in La La, when you run these La La Land numbers, get it right, you save $2,250 annually on the fuel. That's 15 cents per kilometre times 15,000 kilometres. Plus $1,000 because EVs, according to some of you, are allegedly maintenance free. That's $3,250 saved per year in total at the absolute edge of generosity, right? The ragged edge of maximum generosity. And you have to pay back $31,000, being $25K extra for the electric version of the Kona, plus $6,000 for your beautiful photovoltaic array because you hate paying for that coal-fired electricity too. That's going to break you even in 9.5 years or 143,000 kilometres. Check my mathematics if you must. After that, dude, you'll actually be saving money. But you'll be in a 9.5-year-old car. And let's not forget, most people who dump $75,000 on a car, they don't stick with it for nearly that long before going again because, affluence. And this is as generous as I can be about EV break-even points and economic rationalism. For most EV owners in Australia, and this is before putting an EV road user tax in place, the break-even point is going to be upwards of 200,000 Ks. That's pretty clear. There is no money-saving dimension to EV ownership. Just get over it. If you hate my analysis, that's probably cognitive dissonance reaching in and tapping you on the shoulder. It's especially common in people under 30 because you all got medals just for turning up, even if you came last. And mommy and daddy told you that facts didn't really matter because you are so friggin' entitled to whatever opinion. One other advantage of EVs you forgot to mention, maintenance costs. Not just fuel, but servicing and long-term reliability due to electric drivetrains being so much simpler than ICE engines and transmissions. Many people have claimed this to me in the past 12 months or so that I've been reporting on my 10,000 kilometre Kona Electric drive experience. And I really do like that car. I'm not anti-EV. I so don't miss visiting the so-called service station. If I never had to visit a service station again, my life would be complete, right? And hey, the drive is pretty smooth too, and it gets off the line like a friggin' cat. So there's so much to like about EVs, and they do contribute to clean air in the city. So there's that. But if you are one of these people who took this issue with me, that it's so cheap and EVs are maintenance free and all that stuff, I draw your attention to an excellent story in electrek.co entitled, "When an out-of-warranty EV fails, who you gonna call?" Certainly not friggin' Ghostbusters, dude. Don't cross the streams. Google can find this excellent report for you, and you should read it in full because I found it fascinating, and you will too. I would respectfully point out that Electrek seems to be fairly pro-EV as publishers go. It is, after all, their bread and butter, okay? The report centres on a dude named Jim in America who owns this 6-year-old B-Class Mercedes-Benz Electric. It's down to about 140 Ks of range by now, that car, but that's okay for Jim and how he and his family uses the vehicle. But then the motor started whining like an auditorium just jam-packed with ex-wives. SRO. And the three-pronged suppository quotes him $18,000 for the repair. Jesus. 6 years old. It's a Tesla powertrain in that vehicle. That miracle class-leading Tesla technology. Yes. Quick shout out to Electric Jesus. Love your work, dude. So Jim points out that he had owned this car since new and otherwise WTF'd them at the dealership, and they miraculously turned the $18,000 quote into $12,000 by throwing in the new motor at cost. How frigging generous. still a big financial hit on a quote-unquote maintenance-free vehicle. Think you'd agree. About the same as a dodgy DPF plus a high-pressure injector pump failure on a modern diesel. 18 grand. That's American dollars too. So, you can read the full story at Electric, but Jim gets it fixed by this independent EV specialist repairer who, routinely has 17 near-death EVs parked out the front of his shop, with owners hoping like hell he can just magic up a repair for less than the dealership quoted 5-figure sum. This is a thriving business, okay, in the San Francisco Bay Area. There is a proper market for this, okay? In Jim's case, the inductive motor chews out its own bearings prematurely because although the motor is hypothetically powered by electric induction, like magnetic induction, which is theoretically contactless, like the inductive charge pad for your mobile phone, the bearings in the motor form an effective conduction path and they just get incrementally eaten away by carrying a great deal of current. There's like 2 bearings, okay, one at each end of the motor shaft, plus they also cop the impact from driving over bumps, so there's that. Basically, it's DPFs all over again, bad detail design and poor integration. And that means you get out of warranty and a $50 part fails, or 2 $25 bearings in this case, and the dealership says, motors aren't serviceable, dude. That'll be 18 grand. A second door on the right for the defibrillator if you need it, which you probably will. The car industry, shiny new toys, same old tricks. Yes. The owner of this shop, which ended up fixing Jim's problem for about 5 grand, is a dude named Tony Williams. The business is called QC Charge. Mr. Williams actually sees this kind of industry malfeasance and poor EV support by dealerships as a franchise opportunity, okay? He sees hundreds of problems like this for a year today and thousands most probably in the near future as more and more EVs come out of warranty and car makers go 100% Pontius Pilate on their own underdone dipshit design. The car industry routinely uses this kind of thing as a profit-making opportunity. We've seen this over and over and over. I'm looking at you, Ford, and your power shit transmission. Disgraceful. The owner of QC Charge, Tony Williams, I'd suggest, is the poster boy for the negative if you want to debate the fact that EVs might be virtually maintenance-free. He's making the case for the negative by putting his money where his mouth is today. And in fact, I'd suggest this is going to make him both rich and famous.